A 28-year-old man is sitting in his car outside a gas station in San Jose, California. He hasn't eaten since yesterday morning. His phone has been disconnected for 6 days because he couldn't pay the bill. His business, the one he spent 3 years building, had just collapsed. Not slowly, overnight. The investors pulled out on a Tuesday. By Thursday, it was over. He drove home that night and opened his bank account on a borrowed mobile phone. $47. That was it. Everything he had left in the world. His rent was due in 9 days. His car payment was already 2 months late. And he had promised his mother he was going to make it. In that parking lot, he made a decision. Not a dramatic one. Not one that would make the news. A quiet one. A small one. The kind that most people overlook. And that decision made in that gas station parking lot with $47 to his name is the reason. This man is worth over $2 billion today. This is his story. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly what he did, and more importantly, why almost nobody else would have done the same thing. His name was Daniel. He grew up in a small house in Sacramento, California. Third of 4 children. His father worked at a packaging plant. His mother cleaned offices at night so the family could afford school supplies. They weren't poor in the way people imagine poverty. There were no dramatic crisis moments. No nights without food. It was quieter than that. It was the kind of poor that just limits you. The kind that puts a ceiling on how big your thinking is allowed to get. Daniel noticed it early. When other kids talked about college, their parents had savings accounts with their names on them. When Daniel talked about college, his parents changed the subject. But Daniel read, obsessively, not school books, books about business. Books about people who had built something from nothing. By the time he was 17, he had read every biography in his local library. That had the word entrepreneur in it. He didn't know exactly what he was going to build, but he knew he was going to build something. He got into a state university on a partial scholarship, studied business, worked 3 jobs to pay the rest, graduated in 1997 with a degree, $14,000 in student debt, and more hunger than most of his classmates would ever feel. It was the late 90s. Silicon Valley was electric. Everyone had an idea. Everyone was going to change the world. The money was flowing faster than anyone could count. Daniel moved to San Jose with 2 college friends and started a company, an online logistics platform, connecting small businesses to freight shipping at lower costs. For 3 years, they worked 16-hour days, 7 days a week. They had early traction. They had a real product. They had users who genuinely loved what they built. And then they had investors. A firm out of San Francisco committed $4.2 million in Series A funding. Daniel was 27 years old and he thought he had made it. He had not made it. In 2001, the dot-com bubble collapsed. The Nasdaq fell 78% from its peak. Investors who had been handing out millions, like they were business cards, suddenly couldn't move fast enough toward the exit. The phone call came on a Tuesday morning. We're pulling the funding. We're sorry. It's not personal. It's never personal until it's your life. Within 2 weeks, Daniel's co-founders took other jobs. The office was given up. The product was mothballed. And Daniel found himself at 28 in a gas station parking lot in San Jose, staring at $47. Most people at that moment would have gone home. Gone back to Sacramento, told their mother they tried, found a safe job, made peace with a smaller life. Most people would have done that. Daniel did something different. Instead of driving back to Sacramento that night, Daniel drove to a 24-hour diner and ordered the cheapest thing on the menu, a black coffee and toast. And he opened a notebook, not to plan his next business, to ask himself one question. He sat there for 4 hours, and he wrote about every mistake he had made in the company, every assumption he had been too proud to question, every moment he had chosen to look confident instead of admitting he was confused. He wrote about what the users loved, what actually worked, what was real beneath all the noise of investment, meetings and pitch, decks and startup culture. By 3 a.m. he had filled 11 pages, and buried somewhere on page 8, almost as a side note, almost too obvious to write down, was a single observation. The small businesses on our platform didn't need better software. They needed someone who understood their chaos. He stared at that line for a long time, because he realized the whole time he had been building for an investor's vision of what small businesses needed. He had stopped listening to what small businesses actually said. He had been solving the wrong problem, brilliantly, with total commitment. But the wrong problem. At 4:30 in the morning, Daniel left the diner with $31 remaining, a dead phone and something he hadn't felt in over a year: clarity. He didn't have a new business yet. He didn't have a plan. He didn't have money or a team or a single reason to believe anything was going to work. But he had clarity about what he had been doing wrong. And clarity, it turns out, is the rarest and most valuable thing a person can possess. There's a moment in almost every great success story that nobody talks about. It's not the funding round. It's not the launch day. It's not the magazine cover. It's a quiet moment, usually alone, usually at the bottom, where a person stops performing success and starts understanding it. That moment in a $4 diner in San Jose was the real beginning of Daniel's story. Everything before it was practice. Over the next 6 weeks, Daniel did something most people would find humiliating. He called every small business owner he had ever worked with on his platform. Every single one. And he said the same thing to each of them. I want to understand your operation better than you do. I'll work for free for 1 week. I just need access. Of the 31 people he called, 3 said yes. For 3 weeks, Daniel worked inside those 3 businesses. He watched the chaos of daily operations, the missed deliveries, the supplier disputes, the invoicing nightmares, the human problems that no software had ever been designed to solve. He wasn't building anything yet. He was listening, really listening, for the first time. By the end of those 3 weeks, he had a completely different idea. Not a platform, not software, a service, a small team of operations, experts who would embed inside, growing businesses and fix the systems that were quietly killing them. No complicated technology, no pitch deck language, just people solving real problems for real money. His first client paid him $3,000 for the first month. He fixed their delivery scheduling, saved them $14,000 in the first 30 days. They referred him to 2 other businesses. Those 2 referred him to 4 more. Daniel ran the entire operation from his apartment for the first 8 months. He had no employees, just 3 freelancers. He paid by the hour from the revenue coming in. He didn't raise funding. He didn't go to networking events. He didn't pitch to a single investor. He just delivered results and let the results speak loud enough that the next client came to him. This is the part of the story that never gets told, because the climb isn't photogenic. It's not a montage of exciting moments. It's thousands of mornings where the work didn't feel heroic at all, where the discipline wasn't inspiring. It was just necessary. There were months where Daniel made less money than he had in his previous company. There were months where a single client dispute threatened to unravel everything he had built. There was a period in 2004, 2 years into the rebuild, where he seriously questioned whether he had chosen the right path, whether the clarity he felt in that diner had been real or just the delusion of exhaustion. He kept going, not because he was fearless, not because he had some supernatural certainty that it would work. He kept going because the alternative, stopping, would have meant that everything that happened in that parking lot, everything he learned in that diner, everything he suffered through in the collapse of his first company would have meant nothing. And he refused to let it mean nothing. By 2005, he had 22 employees. By 2006, he had operations in 4 states and over 200 business clients. In 2007, he turned down his first acquisition offer, $45 million. His advisors told him he was insane. The company's worth at least 10 times that. Give me 3 more years. They thought he was bluffing. He wasn't. In 2010, 8 years after that night in the gas station parking lot, Daniel's company was acquired for $2.11 billion. He was 36 years old. He had gone from $47.7 to $2 billion in 8 years. Not through luck, not through connections, not through a viral moment or a secret shortcut. Through 3 principles, 3 invisible decisions he made, mostly alone, mostly quietly, that separated his story from every other person who started where he started. I want to give these to you because they're not complicated, and that's what makes them so easy to miss. Most people, when they fail, immediately start building again. They treat speed as evidence of strength. They confuse motion with progress. Daniel did the opposite. When his first company failed, he stopped completely. He sat in a diner for 4 hours and asked the most uncomfortable question a driven person can ask. What did I get wrong? Not how do I fix this? Not what's the next move? What did I get wrong? Clarity over momentum, always. The market rewards people who truly understand the problem, not people who move fastest toward the wrong solution. Daniel's first company failed because he was building for the version of the world that made a great pitch deck. His second company succeeded because he was building for the version of the world that actually existed. There is a version of ambition that wants to solve impressive problems, the kind that make people say wow in meetings. And there is a version of ambition that wants to solve real problems, the kind that make ordinary people say, finally, someone understands. The second kind builds companies that last. The first kind builds companies that raise funding and then disappear. Ask yourself, are you solving an impressive problem or a real one? Daniel did not build a $2 billion company in a dramatic, explosive way. He built it by delivering $14,000 of value to one business, who referred him to two more, who referred him to four more. Compounding. The same principle that builds wealth in investing works in reputation, in relationships, in expertise, in trust. One great outcome leads to two lead to four lead to 16. But only if you are patient enough to let the cycle run. Most people break the cycle because the early returns don't feel worth the effort. They quit in the compounding phase, right before the exponential phase begins. Daniel didn't quit, not because he was certain it would work, because he understood that the result of quitting was guaranteed. The result of continuing was not. I want to leave you with one thing. Daniel had $47 the night he made his real beginning. Not the night his company launched. Not the night he got his first investor. Not the night he graduated. The night he had $47. Because that was the night he stopped building the version of success that looked good to other people and started building the version that was true. Most people spend their entire lives building the version that looks good, and they never find out what they were actually capable of. Don't be most people. If this story hit you somewhere real, if there was a line in here that felt like it was written for you, I want to know which one. Tell me in the comments, not just to engage with the algorithm, because I genuinely want to know what part of this touched you, because the next video I make might be built around your answer. If you haven't subscribed to Success Theory yet, this is the moment. Not because I'm going to ask you every video, but because what I'm building on this channel is a library of stories exactly like this one. Stories that most people never hear, about decisions most people never make, about the gap between the life people settle for and the life they were capable of. 2 video drops every third day. I'll see you in the next one.